This is Steven Diego, and you're tuned in to Breaking Down the Breakdown. On today's episode, we are going to talk about being embarrassed of your job. Hello, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of Breaking Down the Breakdown with me, Steven Diego. Now, for those of you who are watching me on camera right now, I am so sorry. I look weird. I look funny. It is actually midnight here in Toronto. This is the latest I've done an episode in a while. I do have a deadline. It's just so that I can post this up at 5 a.m. your time, my time actually. But welcome in. I'm also going to sound weird. I know certain days you're probably wondering like, oh, why does he talk like that? Well, I have retainers on. So I'm going to try and speak slowly. My lisp is definitely going to come out. But welcome in. I hope everybody's doing all right. It's been quite the week, I must say. Maybe for a lot of you. I think it varies, right? Sometimes we have good weeks. Sometimes we have terrible weeks. Sometimes everybody has good weeks. And sometimes, at the same time, we're all going through it. But for those of you who are not having such a great time, please hang in there. And I'm so glad that you guys are here again. Today was inspired by what had transpired this weekend for me. I feel like a lot of people have a lot of pride in what they do. That shame doesn't really, rear its ugly head like most of the times when you ask people what they do. Like, I've encountered a lot of people that when you ask them what they do, they're very happy about it, they're very proud of it. I've also encountered a lot of people who hate their jobs, right? And the thing is, they're willing to talk about it. They're willing to talk about how unhappy they are at their jobs. But what's very interesting, and this is something that I actually noticed recently, is I haven't actually encountered a lot of people who are ashamed of their jobs. And I kind of wanted to bring that to your attention today. How many of you have friends who, let's say later on in life, like, if you're like my age, okay? Like, we're a bit older. I'm in my mid-30s. I know, crazy, but that is life. And, how many of y'all in your 30s have friends who still work in retail? Not as a manager, not as a shift supervisor or anything like that, but just someone who sells things, right? And how many of you actually don't care that that's what they do? I don't give a fuck. You can do whatever the fuck you want in life as long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as your job is paying the bills for you, as long as your job, is allowing you to feed yourself and your family. Who cares? But see, unfortunately, when we throw back that question to ourselves, for some people, me included, we start to kind of feel like, this is a little embarrassing. And I don't know if you've encountered people who try to enhance what they do. And by that, I mean they add like a special role to what they do, right? Sometimes that's what shame does. Sometimes when, a perfect example, right? I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Sciences. Is that a thing? I have my diploma right here. I could totally just look at it. It's a Bachelor of Arts. And I had to actually Google what it meant. Now you're sitting there wondering, you spent $40,000 going to school and you don't know what the fuck it's for. The thing is, for me, right? The last few years of my university years, I focused a lot on social justice and sociology, right? So certain times people ask me, what did you go to school for? Like, did you graduate? I'm like, yeah, I did. And they're like, for what? And I end up saying social justice just because I'm so used to saying it, right? Unbeknownst to me, I actually subconsciously, I think, got used to saying social justice just because it seems a lot more important. And that when I talk about it, people are like, oh, no way. You know, like, that's wild. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still the same shit. I'm like, yeah, I can go and protest professionally, I guess. You know, like, that's just a joke, guys. Relax. There's a lot of things people can do with that degree. Unfortunately for me, I didn't know what I wanted to do. But it's kind of the same way with work. And I'm going to give an example. Whenever I would meet people, for the longest time, like when I first started, I work at Starbucks, all right? I work as a barista. For the longest time, when I first started at Starbucks, I was happy. I was proud of it. I was like, yeah, I'm a barista at Starbucks, because my location in particular is very hard. Like, it is very challenging. But so if somebody from Starbucks finds out where I work, half the time they're like, ugh. They're like, oh my God, you work there. What? Because they know how challenging it could be. And for me, I took pride in that. But as the years went on, I found myself at parties. I found myself, meeting new people. And they start to ask, so what do you do? And I have no problem saying barista. I'm like, yeah, I'm a barista. And immediately they think, oh, like, that's so cool. So you like make like really complicated like drinks or whatever. And I'm like, oh no, like at Starbucks. And I'm always met with this kind of response where I know for them they most likely don't care, right? But the response is usually, oh, okay, so you like barista at Starbucks. And, it's never the same kind of excitement when you find out somebody's a doctor, when you find out that somebody's a lawyer, or anything else, really, right? And that kind of started to really rub off on me. Now, I recognize that this is a personal thing, right? Like, this plays a lot on my insecurities as a person. And for some of you out there who are embarrassed of what you do, this is why I'm talking about it. I don't think a lot of people are open about how they truly feel about their jobs. And I don't mean do they hate it, do they like it, but how it makes them feel as a person. A lot of it has to do with contribution to society. When we meet people who are happy with what they do, with their jobs, it's easy to say that that's actually not even in the back of their head, because they are doing what they love. I have met amazing people at Starbucks who's been there for years, who are kind of in the same boat as me in the sense that they don't really want to move up. For me personally, it's because I sing and I do all these things. It's just moving up means that I will lose some of my freedom, etc., etc. And I've met a lot of people who are in the same boat. And for them, we call them lifers, right? I think that's a very common term in companies when, you just know they're going to work there for life. And they want to, because they love coffee. They love the art of Starbucks. They love being when the company takes care of their employees, right? And then there are people like me, where sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be honest, I don't know why I'm still here. I go to work and I'm reminded that I'm still here because I work with pretty fucking amazing people, right? Sometimes that, at work, like in your jobs, the people you work with truly makes a huge difference, right? I really don't think I'd still be at Starbucks if I wasn't working with amazing people. And I think I'm really blessed in the sense that for years and years, today was actually my 9-year anniversary working there. And you know what? They didn't even email me. They emailed me last year. Actually, maybe they did. Let me actually check my email real quick while I'm talking about this. They emailed me last year, congratulating me for 8 years and nothing else really. I mean, what am I expecting? Cash? Maybe. But the point I'm trying to make is there is no email. How dare them? Anyways, I got distracted. Instead of being proud that I am able to stay at a company for quite a long period of time and still have the same kind of fun that I have at work, especially lately, I find myself being very ashamed that at 35 years old, after 9 years in the same company, and I decided not to move up myself, I'm where I was exactly 9 years ago. I'm not even getting paid that well. Let me tell y'all right now, there's this whole issue, but we're not going to talk about that. Maybe we'll bring someone else for that another time. But it's starting to get to the point where when I'm meeting people now, I actually omit that part. I now tell them I'm a podcast host, I'm a content creator, I'm a singer-songwriter, everything under the sun that I do, except for that one particular part. And I've always wondered why that is. I wondered why it makes me feel so ashamed to admit that this is what I do. And a lot of you might be able to relate to this, right? Because nobody really has the time to hear your stories out. Nobody understands that sometimes your mental health disorders affects you in a way that you can only really work this job. Sometimes people don't understand circumstances that you actually can't work where you want to work because you're not qualified, etc., etc. And it's going to be hard for you to be qualified because you don't have the financial support, you don't have the money for going to school for it. There are a lot of factors. But oftentimes it really is because of that. It's because nobody seems to have the time to truly get to know someone anymore without, it being like a, how do you say this? Either like a romantic relationship or we're going to be best friends for life. Right? There used to be times where it was easy to talk to strangers and ask them what they do, and they share a really cool fact about them, and you're actually engaged in what they're saying. Meeting people used to be an art, right? Like meeting strangers, passing by on the street, having a random conversation, and appreciating the stories they're able to bring to your life. That used to be a thing, but not anymore. And I feel like that's part of what makes it so difficult now to open up to random people. Not saying you should open up to random people, but there was a time when you were able to talk about things without it being TMI for some people, right? And this is one of them. And it's to the point where we feel like this is our cross to bear. And why is it even a cross, right? Why is it even something that we feel like we're burdening ourselves with? It's just a job. Maybe it's not just a job for some people, cool. But for you, right? If this is how you truly feel about it, it's just a job. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in, this is what you do to survive. This is what you're doing at the moment to secure a future. So why should you be ashamed of what you're doing? Why should you be ashamed of working here and there? Why should you be ashamed of work for, let's say you're a 40-year-old person who got fired from a six-figure job and you now have to make ends meet by working at McDonald's. I can understand why that could affect someone. Right? You were making so much before. You were a CEO of something, or you were like a director or whatever the fuck yields 6 figures, right? And all of a sudden you find yourself at a McDonald's drive-thru and your colleagues, your family members, old friends, they drive up and they see you serving them. You start to think, what could they possibly be saying about me to people after seeing me there? Are they pitying me? Are they making fun of me? Not once. I can bet you right now, not once did you see an old friend. And if this applies to you, not once did you see somebody that you haven't seen in years, that when you had an encounter, they left and you said, oh, I bet they're proud of me that I can pick myself back up and work a minimum wage job after losing a 6-figure job just so I can keep supporting my family. I can bet you $56.88 that doesn't fucking happen. But if that is your mindset, please share it with the world. Please email me at breakingdownthebreakdown@outlook.com and get on the show, because so many people would want to hear, what kind of fucking Jedi mind training did you go through to be able to retain that sense of pride in anything that you do? Because I feel like that's what we need right now. Because it truly is nothing to be ashamed of. People don't know your struggles. People don't know how hard it is to live sometimes. And that's one of the things I'm facing at the moment. This past weekend, there were a few people that I saw that I haven't seen in ages. If y'all are listening to this, yes, I saw y'all there. I didn't want to interrupt because it looked like a reunion of sorts, and I actually was super busy and I can't just really leave what I'm doing. And I don't know if y'all actually saw me there. I know I served one of y'all. This is so funny because now this just feels like I'm like talking to y'all, which I am. Sorry guys. But my point here is this. These individuals who came into my store were a successful bunch, right? So happy for them. I don't really talk to them, but I keep on seeing posts and I'm like, oh my God, great stuff. I remember my manager asking me before going on break if I could go and change the garbages. And I looked at her and I said, girl, I don't feel comfortable doing that right now because there's people out there that I kind of don't feel comfortable seeing. And, shout out to Isabel, literally one of the best managers I've ever worked with. She was just kind of like, okay, take over me and I'll do that. I'm like, okay, cool, thanks. And for me, it was like, I could have totally done that, because that would have given me the opportunity to say hi and see how everybody else was doing. But I felt so ashamed. It felt like, what would they think of me if they see me at 35 changing their garbages, holding it out for everyone so that they don't miss it because I don't want to have to clean up coffee on the floor. It's these moments for me where I remember going on my break and I sat down and I was like, why didn't I just go for it? What's the worst that could happen? They're going to laugh at me? Really? We're all adults. Everybody has been through something in their lives. And then, of course, there are assholes out there. But like this particular group, they were not. They were not mean. They were not rude, right? Like they're very beautiful people. But that motivated me to talk about this. Because I feel like opening up this kind of shame for y'all, I hope for those of you who feel like they have to lie about what they do or enhance, right, their jobs just so it sounds pleasant when you tell people what you're doing. We gotta cut that crap, y'all. We gotta cut the shit, drop the act, call it for what it is. And if people question, then that's an invitation to talk about it. And if you don't want to talk about it, shit, they don't gotta know. But this is what you do. This is what puts food on the table. And it's been so reliant, right? So reliant. It's been so reliable. Sorry. I was thinking about being reliant on it, but it's been reliable, right? It's been consistent. It's been stable. So why are we ashamed of that? I know of so many people who are actually very interesting here. I had to shift gears. I had to shift the way I was sitting because what I'm about to talk about is kind of saucy and scandalous. No, it's not that scandalous, but I know of a few people who work in the adult industry, right? And obviously they don't want their families and friends to know. Why would you? That's kind of wild, right? Like not everybody's open to that. We all joke about OnlyFans. We all talk about, joke about Feet Finder or whatever it is that you do, right? But that's a different kind of shame, right? Same in the way that they don't really want to talk about it. They don't want to be judged for it, right? Different in the sense that for a lot of people, they think people go into this kind of field because they want to. And there are plenty of people that go into this field because they want to. But there are also people who enter this field because they had no other choice. And you're sitting there, I know you're probably like, they have a choice. Everybody has a choice. If you've never been in their shoes, you can't say that. Right? And I'm actually going to talk about this in detail next time because I am going to dedicate a few episodes of this podcast to sex work because it is very important to talk about it, especially in this day and age. There are so many people who are not very well educated in that matter, and that's okay. Right? People will always hold prejudice against sex workers. I don't want to say that's okay because they're people too, but I think being able to kind of allow people to see it from a different lens would help. But point in case is shame still persists when it comes to jobs in which society or the people you were with, they see it as something of a lower class kind of thing. And I really feel like 2024, we should really get past that. And maybe as a whole, we actually are. It is not the craziest thing to think about. Because I realized lately that a lot of the demons in our heads are in our heads. We have been our own worst enemies. We have been the ones who has been creating fake scenarios in our heads of confrontations about what we lack and our insecurities and everything else under the sun that can be considered a cognitive distortion. And it's so sad to think about. Because what if all of us actually really feel that way about our own selves? That if we start to hear everybody else talking the same way about their jobs, about their lives, we actually start to realize, hold on. We're not so special after all. And I mean that in the best way possible. I mean that in, being able to finally relate to someone who you thought had it all, to someone who you thought was high and mighty. We put them on that pedestal. We are the ones who have been taking ourselves out of the race. And that's me speaking from experience. I feel so insecure sometimes when customers come, right? Lately, there's been a lot of young adults that's coming to my location, in university, working on X, Y, and Z. And it's always been a conversation where, I would ask them what they do or what they're studying when I'm on bar. And when they ask me what I'm in school for, it's very interesting. It's not just them, even older customers, kind of like, so what do you go to school for? And I'm like, I'm not in school. Oh, you graduated already? I'm like, yeah, 9 years ago. And they're just shook. They're like, oh, you graduated from high school 9 years ago? I'm like, no. I graduated university 9 years ago. And they give me this look like, what are you doing here? Maybe I'm just tired of explaining why. Because there's definitely reasons as to why I'm still there, right? But it doesn't help. Because then I start to feel like I'm devaluing myself and these people are devaluing what I do and where I work. All because they are, I'm studying for real estate, I'm going to be a great realtor. Or I'm studying for law, I'm studying for medicine, oh, I'm in engineering. And it's fantastic, great job, right? But what else happens when your friends get involved? It's so funny. I only have a few more minutes to talk about this. Maybe I can open this baby up again next time, but I will leave y'all with this. I love my friends. I really do. And I know they only say these things because they know that I can, in their eyes, do better than what I'm doing right now. They know my personality. They know that I tend to kind of be super lax about things. I tend to be one of those people who, as long as I have enough, that's enough. As ambitious as I am, as much as I have so much passion for things, sometimes when I accomplish something, I'm like, okay, you know what, that's enough for this. I just settle for it. They know that. I settle a lot. But they don't understand the kind of shame it brings me when the people who know me best reacts to me working at my job like, why the fuck are you still there? You need to do something better for your life. You're not getting any younger. Almost as if everything I've ever told them in the past had fallen on deaf ears. They know exactly why I'm still there. But because they don't see the other things I'm doing, or I don't talk about it much, they think I'm stuck in a rut. And here's the thing, right? I'm not mad at them for that. Because that shows genuine concern they care about me and want what's best for me. And this isn't like a call to them to say, you guys can stop talking this shit. It's not about that. This is more for me. And this is for y'all who are going through the same thing with your group of friends. You need to be able to put your foot down and explain either to yourself or to your friends as to why you do what you do. This is not about proving them wrong, proving them right, proving you wrong. This isn't about that. This is about really understanding why you're still doing what you're doing. And really understanding why these comments even bother you. Because if you're happy where you are, these things should not bother you at all. And to be able to entertain these conversations, you need to be at a place in your mind where you'd feel comfortable talking about what you do to anyone. I know we are running out of time. I do want to say, I hope for those of you who are still listening, this kind of opens up your mind about shame with your careers, right? Like, we should have none. Because it's getting us money, first of all. It's helping us live, right? But instead of feeling shame, because sometimes it's unavoidable, we end up feeling a certain type of way, right? Instead of feeling that way, let's use this as motivation to get the fuck out, if that's what you really want. Use this as the motivation to tell yourself, I do like where I'm at. It is helping me right now, but I want to see if I can do something a little better than this, or a lot better than this. I don't want y'all to take what you have in the present for granted. Not because you don't deserve better, but no matter how small, no matter how much, how insignificant it feels because we're not getting paid as much or whatever the deal is, right? It's what's helping us get through the day. And it's just a great reminder to ourselves. Of course we can do better, right? And maybe now is the right time to do better. But until you have that kind of, I don't want to say stamina, right? But until you have that kind of motivation to really push you there, be okay with all of this. No one is against you. No one is shaming you but yourself. At least for sure that you know, right? We'll never know what other people are thinking, but we can't control that. We can only control our emotions, our reactions, and ourselves. But I do know that there's a lot of people, and if not a lot, there are important people rooting for you with whatever it is that you do. But this has been Breaking Down the Breakdown. Thank you so much for listening. I will see y'all next week. I actually have a very special guest for my next episode. It is my coworker. But next episode is going to be a very special episode. You can email me at, I love how I was going to say my other email, breakingdownthebreakdown@outlook.com, or you can find me on Instagram, Breaking Down the Breakdown Pod on Instagram. If you guys want to be part of the show, part of the conversation, just email, DM me. I don't know. Do what you do. But thank you so much for being here. And remember, guys, stay kind, be compassionate. You never know what the other person is going through. And when you start to feel like someone you know is feeling what we were talking about earlier, just try to be there for them. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. thanks again. See you guys.